Welcome to End of Life University on YouTube. Today I'm sharing with you an interview I did with Masatoshi Shoji from Sendai, Japan. And Masatoshi started a death cafe in his community of Sendai 7 years ago, and we'll talk all about Death Cafe in Japan. He was really one of the forerunners of that movement in his country, even though he's too humble to admit to that. But he seems to have started the very first death cafe in Japan. So it's a really interesting conversation from halfway around the world, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel before you go. Today, I'm very honored to welcome my special guest, Masatoshi Shoji, who is a licensed acupuncturist, a health communicator as a medical translator, and an aspiring medical writer. In addition, he has been an organizer of Death Cafe Sendai in his hometown in Japan since 2015. He's a certified advanced grief counselor, a member of a cancer peer network, and a certified death doula, currently on hiatus, also a Willow EOL educator. So you've had some wonderful trainings over these last few years. And Masatoshi writes, I hope with my linguistic knowledge and healthcare knowledge, I can be of help to increase people's awareness of death, dying, grief, and life so that they can live their lives fully. So Masatoshi, welcome to this podcast, and thanks for joining me all the way from Japan. I'm really delighted that we have a chance to talk today.
Thank you for having me, and I'm uh, I'm happy to share my experience with you.
Yes, I'm very interested to learn about what your experiences have been like and just comparing them, being from Japan. But I'd love to hear just your story a little bit about how you were attracted to start learning more about death and dying and doing work in this area.
Yes, I don't know where I should start, but maybe it happened after I lost my late wife in 2010. 12, it was 12 years ago, and so she died. And then after that, I didn't know what my experience or what my feeling is. So, but in a few years, I met somebody uh, who is working at I forgot the precise name, but maybe Sendai Grief Care Center or something. Sendai is the name of my city. So,
Mm-hmm.
and so I met him, and I talked with him, and I finally found my strange feeling is called grief. And then at that time, I had a somewhat very strange experience. It's not strange, but might be some strange from usual experience, because there was a event called Holding Community Cafe, uh, and I attended that workshop. And so the attendee plan to have some special event in the end. So since I'm a music lover and I'm a guitar player, so I try to play music at the event. And so after that, I thought maybe with grief and this kind of community event, community cafe, I can set up some kind of, something cafe. Yeah. And so I was thinking maybe I should have a grief cafe, but at the same time, I thought maybe I should, I mean, that event should include uh, even the general people who do not have any experience of bereavement. So maybe everybody can join. Then I accidentally found, yeah, I was maybe searching internet. I don't know, I don't remember precisely, but anyway, I found a Death Cafe in England. And then I started to have this Death Cafe. And I, yeah, yeah, maybe I wanted to have some kind of conversation about death, dying, and bereavement and grief. Yeah.
When you were grieving, did you find it was hard to find other people to talk to about it who shared your experience or who were willing to discuss it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, sometimes it's really hard because, in front of a public, even if there's a small number of people attending in that event, uh, it's really hard for someone to speak up. Maybe they just want to listen to what other people talking. And yeah, but sometimes there somebody who is maybe, I don't know if it's the right word, somebody who is brave to speak up and talk about story.
Yeah, I'm curious to know when you first started your Death Cafe, um, where did you hold it and how did you advertise it and present it to people to get people to come?
Yes, hmm, in the first event, I was quite lucky because I have someone who knows so many people in his connection. And I also was a member of, I still, I'm still a member of the organization called Wonderful Aging Club. That's a public interest organization. So I joined just before I began that Death Cafe event. So uh, through that group, some people joined. So it was like more than, I think, 20 people
Wow,
attended. Yeah,
that's really good for a first
yeah,
Death
yeah,
Cafe.
for the first Death Cafe. But on the other hand, since was, many people, I couldn't handle very well because it was the first time for me to hold such an event by myself.
Yeah, it can be challenging. Did you did you have trouble getting people to talk or were people there willing to speak up?
Yes, since there are more than 20 people, I couldn't have a talk with everyone. And also, I was not ready to facilitate, I mean, the event with so many people.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely challenging.
Mm.
So that was 7 years ago in 2015,
Yeah,
you said.
2015, yes. Mm.
Huh. How often do you hold the Death Cafe?
Uh, in the beginning, I had like every month, but since uh, at that time it was not popular. I mean, the desk cafe was not popular in Japan. Right now, desk cafe, uh, I think some people know what desk cafe is, but at that time it was not so popular, and it was really hard to, have many attendees.
Hmm. So you didn't keep getting 20, 20 each
Mhm.
time, like the beginning, like the first one.
Yeah, suddenly the number dropped, and then, but it was okay because I was able to have more deeper, communication with maybe one or two people, or maybe a few people at the cafe.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I've found too. Sometimes it's far better when only a few people come
Mm.
because everyone talks and can
Yeah,
talk in much more depth that way.
yeah,
So that's just very interesting. So in the beginning, it sounds like no one had really heard of Death Cafe or knew what it was about at all. But it sounds like now, probably because you've done this work, people are more familiar with it.
yeah. Gradually, that's not just me, but I mean, some areas in Japan, some people just launched their own desk cafe, and then yeah, I was also interviewed by some newspapers, but other people are also interviewed, and sometimes they are on TV, and so maybe that's why gradually, especially healthcare workers who are keen to, who are, much, who have much more knowledge about that kind of, event, uh, they were, they got, uh, yeah, ready to, join such an event, I think.
Yeah, so that's interesting for me to hear that it's been growing in
Mm,
Japan because
mm,
it seems to me, I mean, at least here in the US, there's been a growing consciousness around death and dying, and more people who want to learn about it and talk about it. It sounds like that's happening in Japan as well, at least with the Death
yes,
Cafe movement.
yeah, I think so, but it's not, yeah, even now, it's not so popular. I mean, some people who are, keen to, who had much more knowledge about such, you know, maybe death or life or medical, uh, I don't know, medicine related matters. Maybe they know that, but not general people, I think. Mm,
Hmm.
mm, mm,
Yeah, well, we find that here too. There's a group of people who are very attracted
mm,
to Death Cafe for one thing, but the whole idea of talking more about death and dying and educating people, and then there are lots of people who are still not comfortable at all talking
mm.
about death and dying, and that's one of the reasons I do this podcast is just to put it out there for people to hear, just hearing us have a conversation about death, because I imagine there are people who are so afraid to discuss it, but
Yeah.
maybe if they hear us and hear that we're able to talk about it, that will help them get
Mm,
more comfortable with it.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of feedback have you had about the Death Cafe? Have people talked to you about it, about what it's meant to them?
Uh, I think it's not just about the desk cafe, but usually many people in Japan are very, hesitant to, attend any event. I mean, any new event. Uh, so in the beginning, they are very quiet. Yeah, I'm also quiet.
Hmm.
Anyway, and then gradually after, they introduce themselves and maybe somebody speaks up and then gradually they talk each other and some people ask questions and some people answers. Yeah, something like that. Then uh, and what's what's very different from other desk cafes? I usually play music because I play guitar, so
Hmm.
I sometimes sing a song at the end of the desk cafe or sometimes in the middle of the desk cafe if the setting allows me to play. Mm. So then maybe they can get uh, get more relaxed maybe after
Hmm.
listening to music. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because I think music has that effect on people to help them feel more comfortable and more relaxed. So, does it still feel like it's a challenge to get people to speak at the Death Cafe, or are there some who come and are eager to talk and willing to talk?
Mm, yeah, it's challenging, but I usually wait not to ask so many questions because there's always somebody who likes to speak up, and I will usually wait, maybe talking, uh, having some, small talk in the beginning. Then they wish, yeah, they show their willingness to talk or maybe listen to what others talking.
Yeah, yeah. I like to think that Death Cafe is really, it's like creating this safe container where everyone can and feel safe. Those who talk and need to talk or tell their story, but other people who just came to listen, it's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
nice that that's okay too, because for some people that's the most helpful thing they could do
mm,
is just hear what someone else's experience.
yes, I think so. Yeah, some people just come to listen to what other people talking.
Yeah, yes, definitely. How
Mm,
about for you? Because you mentioned, as on your grief journey, you
mm.
kind of maybe needed more support than you got or needed a place to talk. Has hosting a death cafe been helpful to you?
Yeah, I think to some extent, I think it helped. And yeah, I found in UK there's a organization called Widowed and Young, and that's for the people who believed who lost their partners in a young age,
Mm.
and I found it very great, and so several years ago, I was planning to maybe have such a group, and I talked with some people who are, doing some grief work, and then I almost had a, first time conversation, but somebody from academic area interrupted what we wanted to do. So then I had to stop. That was pity, but maybe in near future I want to do it again.
Mm. That
Mm,
that sounds really good.
mm,
So, and I know you have had training as a death doula. You said that that's on hiatus. Where did you get the training, and what inspired you to take that training?
mm. This happened during the pandemic, so I received education from the internet, and yeah, I don't know if it's literally translated into Destura, but there was a famous movie several years ago, maybe 10 or more than 10 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but there was a famous movie at the end of the, uh, I mean, in the funeral, there's somebody who, do some kind of cosmetic things. And that movie was, I think, shown even in the US or maybe in Canada or some other places. Mm. So, yeah, that's,
So it was a movie made in Japan. The
yeah, that movie was made in Japan. Yeah, that's not exact Desdura, but that movie had a very impact on, you know, uh,
was was it the movie called Departures?
yeah, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
yes,
I don't know the English name of that.
yes.
Yeah,
Ah,
sounds
so
right.
That's interesting. So that had a big effect on you.
Mm, yeah. Mm.
So you've had the death doula training, but maybe haven't had an opportunity to use it or do something with it at this point.
Uh, yeah, since I'm a doctoral student right now, so I just don't want to, be,
You don't have time.
yeah, 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 yeah. In short, I don't have time.
Yes, yes, definitely. But it sounds like this is a passion for you that you feel from within that this is work that you want to be involved in.
Yeah, yeah, I want to be more involved in just time and maybe education of decent time.
Yes. And so your degree, I know it said you're aspiring to be a medical writer. Is that part of what you're studying right now?
Actually, I'm enrolled as a doctoral student in dentistry, so it's not
Oh,
about medical writing. But since I was measuring linguistics and applied linguistics, so I thought maybe that would be a good combination to have language and medical matter.
yes, yes,
Mm.
very, very much so.
Yeah, and
Oh, so very interesting.
mm,
Well, I'm curious just from your experience with Death Cafe, do you have a sense of what the obstacles are to talking about death, maybe particularly in your community or in Japan in general? What some of the obstacles that seem to come up for people? And I'm curious to know, are they different than what we experience here in the U.S. or is it all the same?
mm. Yeah, I think there are many, many obstacles. So that's why some people are willing to come to Death Cafe because they don't want to talk about death with their relatives or their family, and of course, maybe with their co-workers or friends. So that's why I think, yeah, they told me, I mean, some people told me, yeah, they are reluctant to talk to others about that matter. And then that's why they chose to come. Mm.
Is it viewed as being almost impolite in a way to talk about death or to bring it up with other people like it might offend other people if to talk about it?
That's a very difficult question. I answer. I mean, I, I cannot answer because I have never talked in a general setting. So I just don't have
You
experience.
don't have
If it's,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because maybe that's like in yeah hidden obstacle or actually in Japan. I don't know if you have heard about that. Always commun in the communication, in people's communication, there's a implicit message you have to read between lines.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's that has a advantage, but on the other hand, that has a disadvantage. Yeah. So especially in the matter of maybe death, dying, that's a very huge obstacle. Maybe,
Hmm.
maybe I don't. I mean, I shouldn't talk, or maybe I should avoid.
Hmm. Well, it makes sense because death and grief, those are very direct
Mm,
topics to discuss.
yeah.
They're not very hidden, and
Mm, mm,
the
yeah.
emotions that go along with them are intense. Let's see, I lost my earpiece here. There we go. The emotions are so intense, and so it's hard um, to be indirect or to keep the message hidden. I think if to talk
Mm.
about death, so I can understand that
Yeah.
that it's just it's an uncomfortable topic, and at least for many people there's also a lot of fear just
Yeah.
because we fear even thinking about our own death and
Yeah.
what that might mean, and therefore we don't want to talk about it at all with
Yeah.
someone else and have it come to mind.
Mm. Yeah, I think so. I Yeah, maybe at somewhere the Death Cafe website, they say like you you don't die by talking about death or something.
It's true. People need to be reminded about it because I've seen people even say that, like, don't talk about it. We don't want to make it happen, but obviously it's going to happen eventually. And yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I also like I don't know how to pronounce in English, but it's maybe Albert Camus.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. French
Yes.
novelist,
Philosopher. And yeah.
philosopher. Yeah, yeah. I love his novel, and so I always think what life is, what death is, according to his ideas. Mhm.
And you wrote about that in your bio about wanting to increase people's awareness of death, dying, grief,
Mm,
and life. And
mm.
so it sounds like you have a sense, I think, and which I would agree with, that it actually helps you live more fully if you are aware of death and able to talk about it and just able to face it.
Yeah. And so yeah. At first, I need to be more educated. I need to have more knowledge about these matters, death, dying, and grief. And so I'm watching educational series of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, I want to thank Ken Ross. He's a son of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and
Yes.
their series are very, I mean, informative, and I have learned a lot from them. So, mm,
Hmm. That's a great place to get some education. And I'm
mm,
curious to know, are there hospices in Japan where people get care who are at the
yeah,
end of life?
yes, there are hospice. Mm.
Is it like an inpatient facility where a patient would go there and stay when they're at the end of life? Or here we have hospice workers who come into the home and help take care of people in their own home. Do you have both of
Yeah, yeah,
those? Or
yeah. There's the same type of hospice in Japan too. Mm,
okay. Oh,
mm,
okay.
mm,
And I was going to say, sometimes that's a really great place to get more
mm,
education. If you could be, I don't know if they accept volunteers or not, but that's a really great place to get
mm.
more familiar with end of life issues too, to just to be a volunteer and go through the training that they offer as well.
Yeah, and once I was planning to play music at the hospice,
Mm,
but it was canceled, unfortunately. But maybe in someday I will be back. And
mm.
mm,
That yeah, that's a great idea. And I was curious, what did you do with your Death Cafe meetings during COVID?
I had as you might have said, I had a virtual event too. Mm.
You had you had it online,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
is that
virtual,
yeah
yeah,
virtual? Yeah, yeah,
virtual, yeah.
virtual online. Yes. Did that work well for you?
Yeah, I had some attendees from other areas. That's a good thing because I used to have I used to have that event in my city, and after the outbreak of this pandemic, I had some people from uh, I don't remember exactly, but maybe from London or maybe from the America and from other places in Japan. Yeah, so that's very nice.
Yes, I found that too. It's the virtual format allows you to just attract a much bigger and diverse group of people,
Yeah,
which is very nice to have for those discussions.
yeah.
And I don't know how the pandemic has been in Japan, but here we have a huge need now. So many people grieving who have a need to talk and be supported through their grief after the pandemic. And I don't know if that's true there as well.
Yeah, I think that's true in Japan too, but I don't think I don't think I have reached those people because in Japan there's still somewhat weakness in digital, I mean technological things for especially elderly people,
Mm,
and they, yeah, I don't know if it's the right word, but they are not enough or they are not sufficient. Um, I mean, literate to use those technological or digital devices,
hmm.
and they are very isolated. Yeah,
Yes, yes. And so I'm sure you're right. Those are some of the people who might need support the most of all, but it's very
mm,
hard to know how to reach them.
yeah,
And they might also not have transportation or the ability to come to an in person death
mm,
cafe
yeah,
either. We see that here a lot. The very people who need it the most just can't get access
mm,
for for multiple reasons sometimes.
yeah. That's a serious problem for the elderly people. Yeah, like mobility. Yeah. Mm,
Yes.
mm,
Also, we're seeing so many elderly people here who are dealing with isolation, and
mm,
it's very hard on their health to be isolated and to not be able to get the support they need. So I'm sure that's worldwide too.
yeah.
And the pandemic made that so much worse.
Mm. Yeah, isolation is one of the biggest issues in, I mean, to be healthy.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yes, yes, we all need support. We all need
yeah,
people around us in our lives.
mm,
Well, I'm impressed that you've continued to do the Death Cafe for 7 years. That takes a big commitment to be
mm,
willing to keep doing it and doing it through the pandemic as well. So it
yeah.
sounds like do you feel it's worthwhile and you feel happy about being part of it?
Yeah, I think so. Even if, as I said, this cafe is somewhat spreading more like Japan-wide, of course, worldwide. Uh, I think, yeah, I can be, I can uh, contribute to maybe my community or if it's virtual, maybe I can have guests from other places in the world. Mm.
Are you still doing it virtually right now?
This year, I didn't have any, so I'm planning to have maybe from next month. Mm.
Hmm. Okay.
Mm.
Because I was just thinking there could be people listening who would think, oh, I'd like to attend that virtual death cafe.
Uh,
So maybe I can share. Is there like a link or someplace where people could go to find out if there is going to be a death cafe, a virtual one?
yeah, I think I will. post somewhere. But yeah, I can share my website. Mm.
Yeah, and I remember seeing posts from you on Facebook at one time in the past. I remember seeing Death Cafe Sendai. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, yeah. Once I had a Death Cafe Sendai website, but right now I closed that website. So I think I will post it on deathcafe.com instead. Hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's a great place for people to go who are just looking for because there are virtual death cafes listed there, right? So,
Yeah. Hmm.
okay. Well, I'm curious to know. I know, so you're in graduate school right now, and you've done some great training already with death doula training and Willow EOL educator. What kinds of goals do you have for the future? What would you like to be doing in the future in this area?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, to be honest, I don't have a clear picture of my goal,
Mhm.
but maybe, I mean, in my feeling, in my mind, I guess people need more education about death, not just life. So life and death, and so that's why I attended Willow EOL, and so mm, yeah, I think yeah, this education, or maybe some people call it like a death positive movement.
Mhm.
That's very important. Mm. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, of course, we cannot avoid to die, but we can at least live with it. So mm, we better maybe be educated.
Definitely, and everyone needs education. I mean,
Yeah,
we here in the US, like we're aware that there was a time more than 100 years ago when everyone died at home and people were just familiar. People had seen someone die. They grew up seeing their grandparents die at home.
yeah.
But because our society has become sort of fragmented in that way,
Mm,
now so many people have not really been exposed to death and dying in their personal life, and
yeah,
that's one reason why the need for education is so great. And I don't know if that's true in Japan as well.
I think so too. Mm. And I always wonder if there's a, I mean, in Japan, if there's a subject called welfare happening in Japan, then, the kids maybe go to a nursery care home, and then maybe they can be volunteers to take care of elderly people or uh, disabled people, and
Mm-hmm.
then they can learn a lot from them. I mean, instead of just sitting in the class and maybe sleeping.
So true. I mean, actually learning real things about life and about death and things that will serve them in the future that they need to know.
Yeah.
Well, you're very humble, but it sounds to me like you are the pioneer of Death Cafe in Japan. I mean, like that you maybe kind of got that movement started there. I know you may not take credit for that, but it sounds like you're one of the first people to start doing a Death Cafe. And then you mentioned you got interviewed by a newspaper.
Yeah, I got interviewed by newspapers. Yeah. First, I was reluctant, but maybe, you know, I have to be the one to talk about what this cafe is.
Exactly, because to be honest, that's what all of this movement needs is that kind of publicity. So we all
Mm,
have to be
yeah.
courageous enough to speak up when we have the opportunity. And
Yes.
I'm impressed and I'm so glad that you did the interview, but that you've been so faithful to Death Cafe and continue have continued to hold it. And I'm sure that you're making a big difference in your community by having just the presence of a death cafe, because someone who attends goes back to their group of friends and mentions that they were at the death cafe and tells someone that what they learned from it or got from it. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I think so too. And I, yeah, in the near future, I hope in the near future there will be no death cafe. People can, easily talk about death in any place. So that be maybe ultimate goal.
Yeah, that's a good goal. it's a it's a huge goal. We all need to share in that goal
Yeah.
and be partners with you. But one of the reasons I was just excited to talk to you is that I feel like our community needs to be global, needs to be large, and we need to connect,
Yeah.
from country to country in order to support one another and just to find out what's happening where you live and what kind of support do you need. And it sounds to me like you've reached out really well to get trainings that you've needed, and you've probably connected with a lot of really good people there,
Mm,
through what you've done in the past. But
mm.
that's what I'm trying to foster, is just all
Uh,
of us getting acquainted so we can make connections and support each other.
as a widower, I felt I'm uh, I'm like a socially marginalized person,
Hmm.
and so today we face so many, yeah, many problems in minorities. I mean, socially marginalized people, and I feel I'm the one of those. So yeah, this cafe is maybe one of those, I think.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, one of the things that could help
Hmm.
raise awareness, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Because usually maybe there are many people who don't have that kind of feeling. I mean, maybe they don't have any grief, or maybe they don't face any, death dying. I mean, they face, but they don't have uh, hmm, uh, acute awareness of
mhm.
that someone's death. Maybe somebody died, but they are not related closely, maybe. And mm,
And you mentioned, at the beginning of our conversation, also being a younger person, a
mm,
younger widower,
yeah, yeah,
that oftentimes I think we overlook that because we assume that people who've had a partner die are
mm,
all are all older and elderly, and that it was expected and
yeah,
something planned. And so I think it is easy to overlook a younger person who's deeply grieving over such a loss.
yeah. Yeah, we cannot control what's happening, but we can maybe reduce by, educating, or maybe by giving information about what happened before. So I think that's the important thing we need to, I mean, at least I should do. Mm,
I think so. I think it's really valuable to hear your story and to hear what you've experienced, and also that feeling of being a marginalized person, of being overlooked.
mm.
And but you rose above that by starting the Death Cafe, which is huge because that had to take a lot of courage on your part to host the very first Death Cafe and be part of that.
Yeah, time passed.
Yes. um, so, well, I have to ask on another note, do you serve like food at your Death Cafe? I'm always curious about that. Do you serve like tea and cookies or something?
Yeah, the first few times I had a kind of uh, ideal, idealistic desk cafe because I could have somebody who can make organic food, and I had somebody who owned a cafe,
Mm.
and mm, I could bring some tropical music like reggae or Latin American music while hosting a desk cafe. But those changed.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
That sounds
Especially
very
during
nice.
the pandemic.
The pandemic, yes, that changed everything.
But I could, yeah, I was quite lucky to have some guests like Irish harp player. You know Irish harp?
Irish harp. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, she says she had been there. I mean, she had been in Ireland for 12 years. And so she played some beautiful music at the desk cafe. Mm. And sometimes I had some poem reading. Mm. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. So let me ask you, how do you have a support group? Are you connected with any other Death Cafe hosts nearby, or are you still a
Oh,
little isolated in doing this work?
uh, yeah, I'm not isolated now because I have somebody who had a desk cafe in other area, which is not so far from here. And he joined my desk cafe before, and then he learned somewhat, he said, and he finally hosted his own desk
Mm.
cafe. So, and I think he was on TV a few years before. Then, yeah, I think, yeah, he still have that desk cafe too.
Oh, nice. So see, you are spreading it. You you are the beginning of this movement and spreading it in Japan.
I didn't intend, but yeah, yeah, he said he learned a lot. Mm.
Well, there are lots and lots of Death Cafe hosts here. If you ever need a support group or other people who would just be connected to you, I'm sure there are even people listening who would love to be connected, just to communicate every now and then by email or however that might be,
Yeah,
if you're interested in that. So
yes, I'm always open to have any conversation with those people who are, having that event. Or, mm,
yeah, because it's amazing how our ideas can come together when we start
mm,
sharing with other people, and we can get inspired of new things we
yeah,
could try. So,
yeah, of course.
well, you have a full plate right now, it sounds like, with going to graduate school. So you're very busy learning a lot of new things. But I'm interested to hear what you end up doing. It sounds like you probably will stay, you'll be doing something involving death awareness, whether it's Death Cafe or whatever else you do.
Mm. Yeah, I think I just go back to the ancient world because maybe we have forgotten during this, modern age, and what was important in the ancient world is still important even now. So that's why my ultimate goal is to study classical studies,
Mm.
ancient Greek and uh, I forgot. Greek and Latin. Yeah,
Latin, yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Rome. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Mm.
Well, Masatoshi, I'm just enjoying talking to you so much and hearing about your experiences with Death Cafe. So I want to thank you for going to this trouble to connect with me from so far away.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I was very happy to, talk with you. And I think more I'm much obliged to you because of this conversation. Because I maybe want to have, as you suggested, maybe I want to have more connection with international people, not just in Japan. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I hope so because we all have so much we can share with one another, and we all our whole this death positive movement, as you mentioned, gets stronger the more connections we can form. So I'm very honored to feel connected to you, and I look forward to continuing to communicate and hear about whatever work you're doing, but also to be a resource if there's ever
Mm.
anything you should need or want to talk about. I'd love to serve that role for you, and I'm sure lots of listeners will feel that way too.
Yeah, yeah. Just one quick word. So I wanna maybe in your question, I saw. I saw your last question. In your last question, you mentioned. Let me check. What goals do you have for your work in your life area, and what else would you like to accomplish? So maybe I want to integrate what I'm doing because I'm a licensed acupuncturist. So I want to bring that to maybe hospice or some other areas, of course, at the very end of their life. So maybe I can do what I can do there. So then maybe I can integrate what I have more into one.
That's an excellent idea because I think acupuncture could be very helpful at alleviating suffering at the end
Yeah,
of life, and um, I think that's a wonderful goal. I would love to see that.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so I hope that comes to pass one day, and I'd love to hear about it from you. Just if you'll stay in touch, and yeah, I'd love to stay connected with you and hear more about your work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. In future, maybe I can accomplish that goal.
I'm I'm sure you will because you got the Death Cafe movement going in Japan. So I I think that you can I think you can accomplish whatever you decide to accomplish. I believe in you.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Well, thanks so much again for talking with me today, and I just wish you much good luck and blessings in the work that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, once again, thank you for having me and thank you for this wonderful conversation with you. And I hope you succeed more in this podcast and your works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Masatoshi Shoji from Sendai, Japan. I was really thrilled to be able to connect with Masatoshi and hear how and why he started a death cafe in his hometown. And I really do believe it probably was one of the first death cafes in all of Japan, and excited to learn that he's gone on to become a certified death doula and a Willow EOL educator so that he can help increase death awareness in the country of Japan. And I'm really thrilled to know that and to be connected with Masatoshi and hoping that our community here can continue to offer support to him as he works to bring more education into his community and his country. I was really touched to hear that he was inspired by the movie Departures, which I know many people here in the US have told me that movie as well really awakened them to the idea of being a death professional. I'll leave a link to that movie in the show notes. It's very beautiful and very touching. So here we are crossing cultural boundaries, which I think is so very important, that we come to understand one another and be able to share conversations like this about grief and death and dying. So I'm very grateful for Masatoshi that he was willing to come on with me across the ocean, across the Pacific, to have this conversation. So if you enjoy content like this, be sure to share it with other people who might also benefit from it. Also, subscribe wherever you happen to listen to the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then leave ratings and reviews wherever you're listening, because that really helps this show become available to more people who are searching for content like this. You can also go to eoluniversity.com/support if you're interested in becoming a supporter by making donations to this show. So thank you once again to everyone who has been helping out for several years now. Until we're together next week, remember that we're here for love. That is the most important thing we can share around the globe, across the oceans, with one another. So face your fear. Be ready for whatever life comes up with next, and love each and every moment of your very precious life. Bye-bye.